If you watch the show Mad Men, which is about advertising in the 60s, 70s, there was that episode of Peggy Olson, which is a copywriter woman, which is big at the time. Huh? And she's a fantastic actress, and she's in that date with a truck driver, and she's starting to talk about Manhattan and drinking fancy cocktails. And the guy gets a bit mad and is like, advertising doesn't work on me, I don't really care. And she says something quite interesting, which is, if advertising really works on you, you wouldn't know about it. Right. And I think it's exactly what tool-based marketing is. It's kind of a piece that you do not feel like you're being sold to because it's actually bringing you value. It's not like screaming at a lead or potential customer like, buy me, buy me, buy me. This is what I can bring you. Is that I'm bringing you this already. And then you're going to have me in mind when you actually need to solve your problem.
Welcome back everyone to another episode of the Growth Hub podcast, the podcast for all things B2B SaaS marketing, brought to you by marketing agency Advance B2B. I'm your host, Clément René, and today we'll cover something super exciting I had to Google after first discussing it with our guest of the day: engineering as marketing. In practice, it is not as complicated as it sounds, and you have most likely already encountered it. Engineering as marketing is a very powerful practice, usually involving marketing, development, and product teams to create and market free tools that provide value to your target audience to then generate leads to support your business growth. A very common example of this are free but gated ROI calculators. Now, if calculators are often used in engineering as marketing, you will hear in this episode that the possibilities are nearly endless. It really comes down to creating tools that can actually sell the idea that your paid service or solution is the most logical next step for your newly generated leads. In today's episode, you'll hear from Jean Bonnenfant, Head of Growth at Trezy, previously Head of Marketing at Presale, and Head of Growth at Growth Tribe. Jean has been playing a lot with engineering as marketing in the past, and he has many concrete examples to share, as well as really good advice to get it done the right way. He'll give a thorough definition of what engineering as marketing is, share advice to limit the amount of unqualified leads free stuff usually generates, what you need to be careful about not to damage your sales when giving too much away for free, and what you should focus on to track the performance of your free tools. So let's dive in for episode 106 of the Growth Hub podcast with Jean Bonnenfant, Head of Growth at Trezy. All right. Hello, Jean, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Well, I briefly introduced you in the introduction, but can you introduce yourself? What's your story?
I'm actually the head of growth for Trezy, which is a cash flow management software that's based in Amsterdam and Paris. So I've got a whole, not career, but like the last 7 to 8 years I was working in growth position. I started as a international growth hacking trainer. It was still cool to say growth hacking at the time at Growth Tribe, which was like the first academy in Europe that I ever gave courses to people about growth and how to grow your revenue through rapid experimentation. So I've done this, coached a lot of companies, trained a lot of different companies, going from like really small startups that need to validate product market fit to scale-ups like, a lot of different companies in Europe mainly, but a little bit in the US as well, and also big corporates. So I've done this for 2 years. Then I was head of growth and training for the French market. So we opened in France and we did a huge growth the first year. Second year, consolidate and started to tackle corporate matters, which sounds uninteresting when you do growth, but it's actually, I think, one of the most interesting things to do. It's like going into a really old set in stone structure and try to, push some rapid experimentation and navigating blockers usually. So I did this for another 2.5 years. And then I was hired by one of my mates in Oslo to do growth marketing as well, but this time in the crypto market, but in a very specific niche crypto market, which is what we call the pre-sale industry. So it's basically, if you take this in the Web 2 industry, would be, can I buy some shares from Apple before the IPO, right? So in the crypto market, before crypto goes into Binance and all of those big exchanges, there's some investment groups of people that are really knowledgeable about the crypto market and really interested into the project themselves and what they can bring to the ecosystem. How can I integrate these kind of groups? And those groups needed software to actually do basically all of the portfolio, but also allow people to buy some tokens of a specific crypto project, whether it's NFTs, whether it's like just tokens of money, basically, before the crypto was going to market. So I've done this for like 6 to 7 months. We had some problems afterwards with the MiCA law, which is the new law for European crypto. And I moved on to do a little bit of freelance. I did a lot of conferences because I was still like a speaker from Growth Tribe. A lot of freelance projects, mainly to build growth teams, because I really love building a growth team from the ground up, like knowing what are the needs necessary for any growth team, and then kind of like hiring the right people to do the job, and putting together strategies that are really self-efficient, let's say. And then finally, my mates from Growth Tribe, one of the founder, the CMO, the CTO of Growth Tribe, they kind of like all went together to create that new product, which is the one I'm working for right now, which is called Trezy, and which is really growing quite fast. We raised 3 million euros already, and not that it's like an indicator of how fast you're growing, but I think the problem we're solving is really interesting problem, which is small SMEs, mainly in France, a lot in the UK as well, but France is like 80 to 90% of our market. They need a software to have cash flow management before the accountant comes and give you the results, which usually takes a lot of time and a lot of money. So we don't replace your accountant, but basically we are kind of a pathway to better insight in terms of, I need to hire 2 employees. What is it going to do in terms of my cash, right? My cash flow. You do a lot of forecasting, a lot of the providers that you need to pay. Are they going to, raise the prices? A lot of different stuff that you can do as a small business owner that's going to save you a lot of time into taking financial decisions within your company. And my position there is growing the business, acquiring new customers and making sure that they're retained by the product and that we have a strong product market fit. And on that side, and I think this is the nice bridge towards what we're going to talk about today, we also learned some stuff on the side, which allows us to bring not only new users for Trezy itself, but also, and I think we'll talk about it, some product that we signed on, that we launched on the side that actually became real products that we sell now separately from Trezy to other kind of ICPs, so ideal customer profiles. So yeah, that's in a nutshell my last 7-8 years.
That's a good presentation. Thank you for that. Well, I mean, you already mentioned engineering as marketing, but I mean, we met before, and in the pre-show, we realized that there was so much that we could have talked about today, but we'll talk about engineering as marketing, and maybe another time we'll get you to talk about something else. But and I probably told you that already, but I have to admit that I had to Google that myself because I was not necessarily familiar with the concept.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us a bit more about what engineering as marketing is?
Yeah, so maybe the Googling is hard because a lot of people call it different stuff. So you have side project marketing, tool-based marketing, engineered marketing, you call it whatever you want. The goal here, and I think it's a really exciting acquisition channel, because a lot of acquisition channels are super saturated today. Especially if you do paid or even organic, whether you're trying to do SEO stuff, like it's saturated. And this is stuff that you need to work on, paid and organic, but there's ways, especially by experimenting, that we find that are more clever. I think not more clever, but a bit different from what people usually do, that can bring a lot of potential customers, potential ICP to your product. And engineered marketing is one of these ways. And it's one of the ways that I think is incredibly exciting. So the goal here is to build something. So not necessarily content marketing, because this is kind of the same concept, right? Is I'm going to attract leads by building something free. A lot of people, when you say that, they think about content. You have all the type of lead magnets that are not necessarily content, but are more engineered based, which means tool based, like creating a resource that is actually actionable, such as little tools, little add-ons that you're going to put on the market for free, maybe launch on Product Hunt, maybe launch another matter, and tell people basically you can use that for free. That's going to bring you a lot of value, sometimes a little bit of fun as well, but usually you bring value for free to people. And then this tool that brought value to that person is also going to be, if it's a really good side project, if it's a really good engineering marketing project, is also going to push a pain that is like, all right, I got a lot of value from that specific tool, but I can see basically that I could do way better in that specific like field of my industry or whatever. And usually that's when you get that, right? So those tools are made for attracting potential new customers, that actually have some issues, some pain, like they have some pain to be solved. You're solving a little bit of that pain by giving them that tool for free. But in the meantime, what they're giving you is the information, or at least like the potential talking points that you need to tell them, right, so we solved that value and that problem for you. Now you should look at this. This will actually really solve a big pain into your day-to-day job. And this is basically your product. So it's how do you bring customers with lead magnets that do not feel like marketing? And that's the important part, right? It does not feel like you're being sold to, because you're having an actionable tool, something fun, something, with a good user experience. And we're gonna give you examples if you wanna, so that you can really grasp what it is. But that specific thing is not gonna feel at all like this is a sales guy or this is a paid ad that I'm clicking on and I'm going through a funnel. It really feels like it doesn't feel like marketing. When I used to give the courses at Growth Tribe, I always took that example of, if you watch the show Mad Men, which is about advertising in the 60s, 70s, there was that episode of Peggy Olson, which is a copywriter woman, which is big at the time. Huh? And she's a fantastic actress, and she's in that date with a truck driver, and she's starting to talk about Manhattan and drinking fancy cocktails. And the guy gets a bit mad and is like, advertising doesn't work on me, I don't really care. And she says something quite interesting, which is, if advertising really works on you, you wouldn't know about it, right? And I think it's exactly what tool-based marketing is. It's kind of a piece that you do not feel like you're being sold to, because it's actually bringing you value. It's not like screaming at a lead or potential customer like, buy me, buy me, buy me. This is what I can bring you. Is that I'm bringing you this already, and then you're going to have me in mind when you actually need to solve your problem.
Fantastic explanation. Much clearer now, and I hope for the audience as well. But you already mentioned that you would share a couple of examples. So could you share a couple of examples of projects like those that you are involved in as well?
Let me share
if you can, of course.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'll share with you the Trezy ones, the ones that we've done lately, but I will share some more everyone can get behind it kind of examples that we've done at Growth Tribe. So we coached a lot of different teams. I think one of the examples that people understand really quickly was the one we've done with Adzuna. So Adzuna is a job board platform in London. So if you want a job or if you're an employer and you need employees, the problem that they had, so the one metric that mattered to them, is that they did have a lot of companies posting employee, descriptions of jobs, basically job boards, job posts, but they didn't have that many people signing up for the recruitment process. So the goal was to bring a lot more resumes to the platform, right? So we did a lot of experimentation, and some of them worked, some of them didn't, some of them weren't scalable, etc. And then we came up with that idea of everyone kind of wants to know their value on the marketplace. And one of the big thing that makes you say, all right, fuck it, I'm going to change jobs, is I'm underpaid, usually. And you can feel that you want to get a bigger salary, right? So we created something called Value My CV, which was at the time we coded it. Now you can do these kind of things with like a lot of different third-party tools, or even ask ChatGPT to code it for you, to be fair. We just done one yesterday with Luke, my CMO. But basically the tool is super simple. You put your resume, the tech will basically analyze everything on your resume. Super simple technology. You say how many years of experience you've got in that field, blah, blah, blah. And that would basically value your CV. So it would give you like how much you would normally earn per year. And it's super interesting, and you want to share this with your mates, and and obviously these people also were like, oh, that's interesting. I want to see how much I'm worth, because who wouldn't know, like who wouldn't want to know how much you're worth, right? And the little trick we did as well to add a little bit on the, we want to give people an incentive to actually go on Adzuna and kind of like look for other jobs, is so that's a bit sneaky, but we put 10% more for everybody. So if you would worth like 70k pounds per year, we would say that you would worth 77, because then you obviously feel underpaid, because maybe your job is paying you 65 right now. So you're like, fuck, maybe I should look for another job, etc. So that's a perfect example of what tools-based marketing here. And it worked so well, by the way, that now if you go on adzuna.com, even right now, and the experiment was 6 years ago, that's the first thing they offer you. It's Value My CV, because it's a really catchy thing. It's like, who wouldn't want to know how much they're worth on the job market right now? So that's a piece of engine marketing that was, I think, really clever. And it allows, first of all, ads on that to have a lot of leads, because then they can obviously send emails to these people. There's the jobs in your industry, because they would know the industry that that person is in. Like it's a bit like if you are interested into jobs in LinkedIn, you'll see that like they send you emails all the time with the new jobs. Well, in that case, that would be exactly this as well, but also to create a pain. And that's the little plus I was saying about what is a good side project marketing, engine marketing project compared to a great one, is that it's not only giving you value, which is my worth. It's fun, but it also gives me value because I know how much I'm worth in the market, and it can also be used into negotiations, into salary negotiations. But it also, and that's again the little difference between good and great like engine marketing, is that it also creates a little pain that is solvable by going on ads.com, right? So that's the best, to me, kind of the best example you can have. HubSpot does tool-based marketing, engine marketing every 6 months. They always create stuff on the side. Like the last one I've seen from them was really clever. It was like create your persona. So you have a shit ton of template for like creating personas, ICPs on the internet. And theirs is really nicely designed. The UX is beautiful. You can create those little people and then you add your stuff. But obviously that would work even better if you had HubSpot, right? So you can keep it even if you don't have it. They don't force your hand. But first of all, they give you they take your email, of course, when you start the thing. Second, you understand that you could integrate this really well with HubSpot. HubSpot are really good at doing these kind of things usually. Mention.com did a really good one called Battle of the Brands, which is, so Mention does social monitoring. So basically every time, it's like Google Alerts, but for social media. And what they did is that you can pick any brands. So like Nike versus Adidas. And you're going to do a battle. So they kind of like count every mention. So you have positive stuff from AI. So whether it's positive reviews or negative reviews, then you have different stuff. It's like a battle, and the design is all like 80s game. And at the end of it, obviously, well, first of all, they have your email, but they also say, okay, you did a good job. You lost or you win. Or you won, but maybe you could do better if you had mentioned, because then you would be able to actually see those in advance, be able to answer them, and the positive stuff would go up, etc., etc. So
I won't take the credit. I won't take the credit for that one. I was actually working at Mention for the time, at the time when they actually released that. But yeah, I was not involved in it. But yeah, but it actually worked. It actually worked. It did, as you said. I
loved it. I used to present that one as an example.
Yeah, well, it was really well done. Of course, there was like a lot of the technical side of things was like, there was a lot of work that you wouldn't see, of course, from the front end. But no, it was really good.
I think it was a really cool one. That's what I was saying when I was like, you have the actionable ones and you have the ones that are a bit more fun. The value I would get from that is not big. Let's not.
It was thought as like, of course, acquisition, but like something in between, like awareness and acquisition.
Yeah.
And it filled that purpose, but yeah, like as you say, like it was more of a fun tool than like really, really like providing a lot of value.
I think the design, you guys nailed the design at the time. You were right.
Again, nothing I did there. We had competent people at the time doing that.
And then, I can definitely talk about the one we've done with Trezy, because this is a big thing that we love to do, because it's not that easy to attract customers when you are in our industry, because we target mainly SMEs. So first of all, these people do not have time. Like they do not have time. If you are having like a baker shop in France, if you're having 2 restaurants, like the thing that and that's what we solve is that we sell you hours, 3 hours per week, because when you have a tool such as Trezy, you're going to save a lot of hours doing all of that stuff that you would do with your accountant normally, or a lot of money if you let your accountant do that all by yourself. And with Trezy, we did release a lot of stuff. So we had the CTO from Growth Tribe, and the CEO of Trezy is also a huge programmer, in my opinion, one of the best I've worked with. So they're really good at like finding stuff on the internet, scraping, and a lot of stuff that we could offer to our customers. And if you go on the resources page in the website of Trezy, you'll find a couple of the ones that we've done lately. So we've done FinCheck. So FinCheck, you take an annual statement or several annual statements of your company. financial statement. You push this into our tool, which is called FinCheck, and it's going to give you a lot of insight on what you do well and what you don't do well, and what is your position compared with the rest of the industry, which is always super interesting. Like if you're a CEO, who wouldn't want to have this? And we had a big success, of course, with FinCheck, because it gives you as well a little bit of your profile as a CEO, if you risk averse or not, a lot of information that normally it would take you a lot of time to kind of analyze. And sometimes it's also good to have a third party telling you these things, because you don't want to hear some of them if you're the CEO of, and when I say CEO, it's like, it sounds like more startup-y or whatever. But for us, it's more like, I would say, real people, like artisan, like I think people that have like a restaurant, people that have like just a small company in France, and it's like struggling with the pricing going up and all this. So FinCheck worked incredibly well, because the only thing you had to do was basically just give us your email, obviously. You upload those documents, and then we're going to give you a lot of different information on the growth opportunities and all of these sorts of things that you would find into Trezy, but we won't give you the full recipe, obviously. The goal is not to give you every single thing that we would give you at Trezy, because otherwise, like, we won't sell anything afterwards. But this one worked super well, and we put it together in like 2 to 3 weeks. It was Pierre, the CTO. We did another one called data.trezy.io. So data.trezy.io is also incredible, because it's basically, you could go on that website, and it's kind of like papers.com or societe.com, but way better on steroids. So we get all the information that these websites have, papers.com, societe.com, that gives you a lot of information that are legally required for them to put public. And you can go on that website, go on Nike Friends, or go on your neighbors that has like that specific shop, and get a lot of information of their cash flow. So you can see from yourself a little bit how people in your industry are doing, and also what they're doing right? Some, you're always like, how does that guy sell that much? He has the same business as me. Well, then you can see that, right? And obviously, it will give you the statements from like 2023, 2022, 2021. In order to make this better for your own account, it would be better for you to buy Trezy and to actually see your own cash flow management and see the insights that they're seeing probably from a software such as Trezy. But this is going a bit beyond as well, because then you can compare with like everyone else's. You can even take their annual statements and put them into FinCheck, because they're available on the internet. Then you can see exactly what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. I always say in growth, this is something incredible. So I'm starting to see growth now into that kind of software, which I would have never really been able to do before. But growth is a lot of this, especially if you do awareness and acquisition. It's a lot of like watching your competitors, trying to reverse their funnel and trying to steal some, we call these competitors piggybacking. Well, FinCheck and data.trezy.io allows for free anyone to do this in a cash flow management way. Why their cash flow situation is so good and mine is so bad? Well, maybe they have a better forecasting stuff. So when they have to hire employees, they know that they need to move money from there to there, etc. So it allows you to do that. And maybe the third one I would talk about Trezy which is the classifier. And it's an interesting example, because instead of creating a product from nowhere, it's kind of like taking the one thing that made Trezy such a success, which is the classifier. So when you open an account on Trezy, you connect your bank account, your professional bank account, or you import your CSV, from your bank. From there, our technology is classifying all of these financial transactions and enriching them and putting them into accounting categories, which are proper to your country. So you have accounting categories, which are the legal ones from your country, really important to have these ones. And then the subcategories. So if you're a restaurant, you're going to have like, your subcategory is going to be like Uber Eats, Deliveroo, takeaway.com, blah, blah, blah. That technology is so strong at Trezy that we were like, people love it. That's the reason that we are so easy to use in terms of onboarding. If you go to one of our competitors, the onboarding is going to be slow and painful. You're going to have to do a lot of categorization yourself and then redo them later. The classifier at Trezy is so powerful that the CEO and the CTO are like, wait a minute. We have something that is so freaking powerful that everyone loves, and that's one of the big reasons Trezy is such a success today. Why won't we do this also as a side project and see if there's some interest from other people. So not only just small owners of a small structure, but maybe open banking, for example, maybe Penny Lane, maybe Conto. They would love to have such a thing because their classifier is not as good as ours. So what if we just can put this on a side project, which we did. We did a lunch on Product Hunt. Quentin went to a couple of events for Gen AI stuff, because there's a lot of Gen AI and enrichment comes from the LLMs, etc. And see if we have like some people buying into that project and be like, wait a minute, Trezy is not interesting for me because maybe I'm too much of a big structure, but the classifier is insane. I have a lot of financial transactions per day and I'm doing them really badly or really slowly. And we have a technology that we could put on the side. So that's why I wanted to talk about that example in particular, because that example is not even us creating something. It's us thinking of our own product and being like, wait a minute, we have a classifier that everyone is in love with. Let's try to push it through other stuff. And now if you go on classify.trezy.io, it's definitely a separate product now that we sell to open banks, like DO banks, etc., or companies that have a lot of financial transactions to do per day. And they need to enrich them and they need to categorize them into the right categories. And we say this, we sell this as API calls. So every call you're going to pay like a little amount of money. And now we sell that product apart from Trezy, which is a complete different business and two completely different clients. So I think it's also a good example to show you that sometimes in your own products, you have stuff that you could put on the side for free, or at least beginning for free, and see if you could even be able to do a different stream of revenue for your company.
All right. Well, that's amazing examples. Really, like at least I'm loving what I'm hearing. I'm assuming the people listening as well, but I mean, yeah, like you're generating a lot of attention using then engineering as marketing, but then yeah, it creates attention. But then if it's free, it can also create any sort of attention. So do you have specific techniques or advice for our listeners or even for me to make sure that you eliminate as much noise as you can from the traffic that you get to mostly get ICP-ish contacts in your funnel?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because if you do something like Battle of the Brands, for example, I'm pretty sure you're going to have a lot of emails.
It was a bit of everything.
Yeah. So there's some of the tools that you're going to create that kind of takes care of themselves, like Classify. You won't have anyone that is not a dev that needs API calls and financial transactions. That you won't get a lot of like bad leads. If you have leads, usually it's not going to be that many, but they're going to be extremely valuable. Some other tools, yes, of course. What I would do is, first of all, having a really good lead scoring in place, and also do not flood your sales pipeline with something that is a side project. So for like FinCheck, for other stuff that we've released, we knew that even with the release on Product Hunt, for example, which we got like 500 hub votes with number 3 of the day, we would get a lot of people that were not interested in Trezy. They're just, oh, that's a fun tool. I can take an annual statement. Sometimes like we couldn't take a look directly at some annual statements, obviously, but we know that some people must have taken the one from Apple, right? It's like, obviously, Steve Jobs didn't go into our, Steve Jobs. Yeah, anyways.
We get it.
So I would advise people two things. The number one, really good lead scoring, but a specific lead scoring for that specific tool. So for example, the database of FinCheck is separated. We use Atio as the CRM. It's not going into a CRM, right? It goes into a CRM, but on a specific different pipeline, which I could lead score them before.
Okay.
So you could have AI enriched lead scoring that tells you exactly if the company and the structure, or even some of the CRM does that automatically. If it's a small structure, for friends, for example, you have a better lead scoring. So I've got like a full lead scoring template specifically for FinCheck that tells me if that lead is, which country, small structure or not. Do they have like sometimes already a treasury software, etc., etc. So I would be really careful what you're getting, but the wider you're going to go, the shittier the leads, excuse my French, but that's normal. So then the more precise and the more, let's say, targeted the tool is, the better, but then it won't have as much of a big splash effect. Sometimes you just want people to talk about your brand. That's not our case. So I would advise you to not use your normal sales pipeline first thing, and to make sure that the enrichment of the people you're getting is up to date, accurate, and that you can just treat the leads in a really different manner that you would, because some of the stuff you're going to need some nurturing. It's not going to be like an inbound lead that comes from Google
immediate.
with a high intent keyword, right? It's going to be someone that is vaguely could be interested into the product compared to someone that has a high intent keyword research on Google. That person, I know I have a 70% chance to close him in a demo, for example.
Okay. Well, and I mean, you mentioned also like a product hunt launch earlier, but like you recently launched a free tool. Like you recently played with the marketing or engineering as marketing to support the real product launch of a product at Trezy. Now, if it's been a few weeks, right, already.
So we relaunched the side project Classify. We haven't launched Trezy itself yet.
Okay.
We wanted for a while, and I had
Okay.
some stuff that I couldn't be here, so they didn't want to do it without me because that was my project. But
Yeah.
we did launch Classify and we launched FinCheck.
Okay. But then, I mean, okay, so then like, let's say like step 2 of the evil plan is still in progress. But if you look back at what you've done so far and like how you've promoted those tools, is there anything you would do differently? Like, you know, how they were built, the value they're bringing?
Yeah, definitely some stuff. Well, first of all, from the first product hunt launch to the second one, you learn a lot about how it works. Product launch, sorry for everyone that works there, is not as good as it used to be, in my opinion, and in opinions of everyone I know. Because first of all, product hunt used to be a lot of discovery. So it means that a lot of people would go on product hunt every day, and that's how you get your product discovered. That's basically the whole thing. But right now, it's a lot of you have your list before, and you bring your people, and they upvote you without even trying the tool. So it's a lot of like who knows who, and the time you put into the preparation of how many people you're going to get to upvote you, or maybe buying upvotes. A lot of people do that as well. Is going to make you product of the day, whatever. So make sure that your metrics you follow when you launch, whether it's product hunt or other stuff, by the way, whether it's like other, you do guest blogging, posting on social media, paid ads, some people do. Whatever you do, make sure that what you're tracking is not necessarily the first degree metrics, which I would call vanity metrics, which is upvotes, click on the link, blah, blah, blah. Make sure that what you're tracking is the metric that matters for you, which normally is like email capture or even conversions at the end of the funnel. But do not base your efforts on this first vanity metrics, which is going to be the upvotes and all that. Upvotes are cool because why? Because they put you on top of the page, right? But that's what happened with Classify. Even if we had better upvotes, they didn't put us in featured, for example. So we didn't have a lot of people discovering the product, while we did in FinCheck. And as well as, again, since now it's more of a game of like you prepare your lunch and then you launch, and then it's how many people you get to get into the product hunt page from external sources. It's not as good as it used to be on like there's actual real interest from people you didn't know before. So I would count on upvotes and stuff like this even less than before.
Yeah.
Now it's really make sure that the metrics you're going to follow are metrics that's going to impact your revenue. So you know approximately how many people you can convert from that specific list. If the lead scoring is well done, that's what you need to track. Like the potential revenue at the end of the day, or how many emails you capture if you want to nurture them later. But do not put all of your attention on those first metrics, because you're going to have a lot of happiness the day you launch. And at the end of, a month or two, you'll be like, oh, we didn't make any money out of this, So it's really easy to get like, yeah, we've got product of the day. But let me give you a real example. FinCheck did bring us a lot of potential users, but at the end of the day, I did see value coming. And right now we're getting more value. But the first 3 months, we didn't make a lot of sales for Trezy. That was the first launch. We didn't really know how to do it. And Classify, we had way less upvotes. Like it was not even visible in the featured of Product Hunt. So you would go on the homepage, you wouldn't see that. But the money we generated from it is insane. So that's a good example of like, be really careful of the upvotes, the number of likes on my release and people talking about it. That's all great if your objective is awareness. But I wouldn't count on this if your objective is revenue. Make sure you track the right metrics. That would be my biggest advice, I think.
Okay. I guess that's valid for pretty much anything marketing related.
I think so. But some stuff that are marketing related are purely advertising. I used to be a real growth. Advertising is like it's an awareness business, only vanity metrics. Sometimes you have stuff that it's good that just people talk about your brand, especially if you're in a small market. It's good to be known because some people when they'll have a
Yeah.
problem later, you'll be top of mind. So I'm not spinning on awareness there, and some vanity metrics. I learned by experience that branding is actually a huge, powerful thing, and all this. And sometimes it's hard to see the return on investment, especially a month afterwards. And when you were experimenting, that's what you want to see usually. But on side project marketing, I wouldn't say branding is the number one stuff, except if that's really your goal. So, but I would definitely track more. And yeah, you're right. Even in marketing in general, yeah, track more that stuff that for me are actionable metrics or at least indicators. Then the KPIs down the funnel can move. Early indicators, we call them.
So to summarize, what would be your do's and don'ts for B2B companies to actually nail engineering as marketing?
All right. The do's are qualitative data is key. You need to understand what are the kind of like current pains of your customers. So I would say that the qualitative insights that you get from your customer base, your actual customer base, is key to make sure that what you're building is actually needed. Right? So the number one thing you need to be aware of, so you should know that if you have a good, healthy company already, is that I have a good customer base, I do qualitative interviews every 6 months and understand the biggest pain point. The biggest pain point you solve with your product. The other pain points that bring to that pain point, or maybe the things that makes you see that you have that pain point, that's what you need to focus on, right? And you can't have these if you don't have good qualitative data gathering systems, right? So qualitative interviews, Hotjar stuff, like all of the things that makes you tell like that people would be interested into that specific kind of tools. The don't is to create stuff just to create stuff. I've seen a lot of companies, as soon as they heard engine marketing, they're like, oh, well, we can create so many tools, or to give too much. You gotta be really careful what you're giving, because sometimes not a lot, but some of the big mistakes that I've seen in engine marketing is they basically give 80% of your product. So it's kind of like having a freemium that gives you access to a premium, and it's like, why would I pay for the 20% more? I actually have enough with the first tool. Yeah. So they do side project marketings, but the project is too much. It's too close to the product, and it's like giving a lot of value. So you basically just created a freemium of your product for free, but that does not do 20 or 30%. That does 80% of the value of your product. So you're missing out on a lot of leads. And then if you remove the product, you have a bad reputation. So yeah, the just make sure that you in the don't make sure that the product is actually a step towards your product. That's what, again, I'm going to say it again, difference between good and great is that okay, it gives a lot of value, but that value is actually creating the pain, or at least showing that there is a pain there that could be solved by selling your real product, right? So be careful with that.
Okay, well, that's amazing advice. And speaking of, we're reaching then the last bit of the show. What advice have you received that made you a better professional?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
You have 2 seconds.
Damn, what advice? I think it's one of the best I've got was actually having OKRs for yourself. So we do a lot of OKRs and strategizing when you work into a company. As a professional, I have a lot of problems having some recall, some kind of helicopter view on my own career and what I want and what I want to learn and what I want to be 1 year from now. Everything changing really fast, especially in the tech market. So I had like 2 coaches at Growth Tribe. They paid for you to have coaches, one for public speaking, because you do a lot of trainings, coaching and conferences, and one for like just work. It's a career coach. And she basically said that, all of the OKR stuff that you do for companies you coach or whatever, you could do that for yourself. Like every quarter or at least every year, kind of like a retrospective on what you've done and the big objectives that you want for next thing. So I remember when 2 years after Growth Tribe, I met Sebastian, which is now the CEO of the pre-sale company, a crypto company also. I've seen how good he was at retention. And for me, growth was that big marketing thing. And it wasn't. Like, growth is actually 80% product and retention. And one of my objectives that year is like become a fucking beast at retention. I know a year is not enough, but hang around with him as much as you can, read as much as you can. And it's good to have that follow-up. And at the end of the year and being like, this is what I've done. This is what I didn't do. Why didn't I do it? What can I improve so that I can actually achieve my objective next year? That was a really good advice in my life. So every year I do retrospective, and every quarter I give myself kind of like objectives of what I want to learn, keep on upskilling all the time. That's part of my OKRs. So what do I want to learn? What do I want to work on this instead of this? Well, I have problems doing this, so how can I solve this? Etc., etc. I think it's one of the advice that the career coach that I had from Growth Tribe kind of like changed the way I was seeing. Because if you're like me and you have trouble having an helicopter view of yourself and what you do in your career, it's really good to put it on paper, what you did wrong and not, and also gives yourself some, objective key results, like you do in every company usually. I think that would be my advice.
All right. Well, that's really amazing. I have to say, like, first time I hear it, but it makes a lot of sense, and I might try to apply this.
There's a lot
myself.
of stuff on Notion, like the Notion templates now, it's like following up every day. A lot of people do this for like meditating and all this, but you could do this at a year, It's interesting as well because it tells you the big stroke on what you should do to, do some things that you like doing.
I will try and I will give you feedback maybe.
No worries.
But Jean, thank you so much. I think I learned a lot today and will most definitely try to implement a bit of this in my daily work.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining.
Well, pleasure, man. That was a great conversation. Cheers.
And this concludes today's episode. I hope you learned a thing or two, and if you did, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This podcast is brought to you by marketing agency Advance B2B. So if you're looking for a partner to assist you with strategic marketing and anything HubSpot, visit advanceb2b.com. And if you're still around to hear this, thank you for listening and take care.